Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Amsterdam, welcome to DrupalCon, and I hope you've really enjoyed the keynote by Dries this morning and the picture. That's the reason why we're starting a bit later than expected. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces here, a lot of new faces, and today I'm going to basically address to you on how I grew my company and basically how I've crossed all the hurdles I've come across. So basically it's an open session, and you are free to ask me any questions afterwards on how we did it, what hurdles I took, and if you have any questions about my slides, you can visit me right after the presentation. My name is Michel van Velde, and as I said, I will give you a talk on how I grew my company called One Shoe. First, a little bit of an introduction. This is necessary to learn about, why we took the hurdles we took. We're an advertising and digital agency. We're with 40 plus specialists based in Utrecht, the Netherlands, and we provide services for offline and online communication. We've been growing rapidly. We entered the Deloitte Technology Fast 50. And we won the FD Gazelle Award, and we're quite proud of that because we were number 25 in the Technology Fast 50. That's number 172 on the EMEA ranking list, the EMEA 500. Yes, it's possible to grow rapidly with a Drupal agency, especially in this era when there's more demand than we can offer. We work for companies, governments, NGOs, and we create and realize seamlessly integrated communication solutions. And not only our solutions are seamlessly integrated, also our processes and workflows adapt to those of our clients, which means we follow a client strategy, and I will come back to that later, all the different kinds of strategies you can follow with your company. So what we do, and this is quite, it's quite a lot of we offer. We combine the creativity and strength of a strategic agency, a UX design agency, an online agency, a mobile agency, and an advertising agency. And when we started the company, we had a dream. Basically, is to build this. And we started off, me and my companion, Floris Derksen, who I'll introduce later in my slides. We had what we call a big, hairy, and audacious goal. We wanted to become a global agency with offices all around the globe. We're now 8.5 years later, and we're now working on a subsidiary in Germany and one in Amsterdam as well. So basically, we're expanding. And it will take us a while to reach this goal, and that's why it's called a big and hairy, audacious goal. And it's good to have a big, hairy, audacious goal because it sets, a mindset to grow. If you have something to wish for, but it's not there yet, you can work towards it. And it gives you a lot of energy. And we have another dream, and I can share that as well. We want to go to the Bahamas. So once we're finished with this all in a lot of years' time, we're going to fly out to the Bahamas, we're going to sit there, drink a beer, have a laugh, and say, do you remember DrupalCon? Do you remember growing? Do you remember all the hurdles we've taken to achieve success? So the first thing I want to, basically tell you is that think big, dream big, so you can grow big. If you don't have a big, hairy, audacious goal, then you can work and basically on your daily projects, and you can't work towards that big, hairy, audacious goal. And a study recently showed that only 2% of all entrepreneurs have a big, hairy, audacious goal, but those 2% are also the most successful ones. So I urge you, come up with a big, hairy, audacious goal, as we did, and grow fast. So we started this agency basically at my house, at the dinner table, 2 second-hand laptops. Yes, we're going to create a full-service agency. How? We didn't have a clue at all. Well, we had one thing, we had Google. So we started Googling on how to set up an agency. And the day we registered, at that evening, I had a party at my house, and this guy walks in, and he says, "Hey, how are you doing, man?" It's a good friend of mine. He says, "Well, I started an agency today, a company today." I says, "All right, do you have a website yet?" He said, "No, I don't." He said, "Yes, you're going to be my first prospect then." So that evening, I signed my first deal. Wasn't the most profitable one. But then again, we were starting off. And within a couple of weeks' time, we decided to focus on bringing in quite a few nice brands. And that worked out fine via my network. But before we started off the agency, with my companion, Floris Derksen, we had to define rules on how to cooperate, how to work together, what to do and what not to do. And one of the rules is that we didn't want any investors in our company. We wanted to be an independent agency. And we knew that would give us hurdles along the way. We could not grow rapid as we could, because we didn't have any investors. I always see it as there's two ways to the south of France. You can take the toll road, cost you a lot of money, but get you there quickly. Or you can take the country roads. Takes a bit longer. It's a lot nicer though. And when you get to the south of France, you don't have to meet your investor there, who basically invested all the money so you could pay the toll roads. So yeah, we had rules. So no foreign money, no investors, and not working on projects my wife wouldn't allow me to. So not working for clients that, would not be generally expected to work for. So we had a different set of rules. We've written them down, so we had a ground basis to work on. And we had our big, hairy, audacious goals. We created our website using Drupal. And we had our first client. So together, this is Floris Derksen, by the way. He's my companion. We combined in our, board of directors or management team, two different personas. And this comes in quite handy in the future. This came in quite handy in the future because I have a marketing and sales background, and my companion had a UX design and development background. There was no way we could basically not work together because we had our own different sets of expertise. And this would basically, give quite a lot of balance within the management or team, or as you call it, board of directors. So we found these two new clients. It was SOS Children's Villages, a major NGO, and Gotan, that is a large food producer in Europe who works in over 17 countries. And we were allowed to work on their website with the two of us. So I did the consultancy, I did the selling, I did project management, and Floris did the design and development. With two large projects, we were working our butts off. We were working, and I say we started early at 8:30 in the morning, definitely until 1 at night. And that comes with the job if you want success, because you have to create first some profit. Profit you can invest later in new stuff, and you have to, break the ground floors and set your company in motion. So we were working really, really hard. They say if you've worked 10,000 hours on a project, you're a specialist. Well, we've worked 10,000 hours plus in the beginning to create our company. So when we got the first two major brands, we started to shout them, shout it from the roof. We created a press list, and we sent out a press release to every news station we could find. And that got picked up, and suddenly people were talking about this new agency. Everybody was thinking that we were with 10 people already, but it was just the two of us. So everybody was talking about this new agency. It's like, hey, they got two new brands, big brands. They choose for one shoe. Something is happening there. And we created a buzz around our company. So we didn't do project management, sales, marketing, development, designing. No, we also did press and PR for our own company. And that's really valuable. That's what most of the agencies don't do. They create successful projects, but they forget to promote it. And not just promote it on Drupal.org, because that's where the developers come. No, promote it to your local press. That's where you start, or the national press or the international press. There's a lot of websites you can find where you can promote your work. And we did. And then suddenly, independent persons were talking about One Shoe. They were talking about our agency. Something's happening there. And that's really important. Independent people talking about your company. Because I always say, hi, I am from Coca-Cola and I'm selling you Coca-Cola. Yeah, right, because you're from Coca-Cola. But then this independent person says, Coca-Cola's great, you got to buy it. And then suddenly people think, could be interesting. So one of the major reasons for success is to promote your work via independent channels. And we did that in the early days. And we were lucky as well, I can tell you that. Not only because I had a network with a few large customers, potential customers in it, but also we were the first agency to adopt Drupal in the Netherlands. So what we started to do is giving back at the same time. We started looking if there was a community around Drupal, and we found out there was one event and there was about 10 or 11 guys sitting around pizza boxes at a university talking about Drupal. So I have a marketing background. I decided to join the meetup. I would go there and sit down with the guys, and they were talking about code. Okay, I'm not a coder. I know marketing. I know sales. So I sat down there, and then suddenly I see this guy walking in with a suit. So I walk up to him and says, "Who are you?" I says, "Well, I'm from KPN, one of the largest telecom providers in the Netherlands, and I've heard something about Drupal. There's a meetup here." And then I thought, okay, there's 11 guys sitting around pizza boxes here. We need to professionalize this as well. Not only professionalize my company, but I also need to professionalize the community. So the next meetup, we started promoting via independent channels as well, and Drupal.org and all the channels we could find. And I created a role banner, and then suddenly 2 new large companies would walk in their suits, and suddenly we had a table there, and we can all those large companies would basically address the Drupal developers there and talk about Drupal in a more professional way. So the event was called the Drupal Jam, and the Drupal Jam became the biggest Drupal event in the Netherlands with more than 200 to 300 visitors every year now. So we basically started giving back, and I want to address to the keynote of Dries, which is really good. Give back to the community, and it will bring you profit along the way anyway. And maybe in the future it can give you badges, that you're a core contributor or a marketing contributor as well. So very well done, Dries. So events is another way to promote yourself. So we decided to do some more. So in Holland now, you have the Drupal Jam. We organize Drupal cafes at our office. It's all about sharing knowledge. I set up the Drupal Business Foundation in the Netherlands to promote Drupal independently. So my company is not linked to that. We're an organization member of the Dutch Drupal Community Society, and of course a Drupal Association member. Really important to have those badges on your website. Why? Gives you credits. If potential customers see those badges, they think, hey, this guy or this company is giving back to the community. They know their stuff. So it gives you credits. So if you basically give back and you invest in the community, it will bring you profit in the end anyway, and you can grow grow faster than those who don't. So we started growing our company with our first profits we made, and that was the biggest hurdle, I think, is hiring my first person. I was lying there at night in bed like, oh my God, no. No, I got regular costs coming in every month. Oh my God. How am I going to do this? And then I came up with the idea, okay, I'm going to hire an intern. It's cost effective. For 6 months, I can find out if he's well enough. And if he's well enough, we can hire him anyway. And we hired this guy who was good at development, but also user experience. Well, that came in handy, so he could side-by-side work with our clients. So we started to look for what we call T-shaped personnel. You can find specialists who are focusing on either PHP backend development, but we were looking for T-shaped personnel. T-shaped personnel is they're really broadly educated in several subjects, but they go deep on every subject as well. And this guy, this intern we found, was really good in UX, really good, and in development. So there's a win-win situation for us. By doing so, this guy, internship, paying, I think it was 300 euros a month, at the time, brought in a lot of profit. And with that profit, we bought faster laptops and we could invest in new stuff. And then we started growing. We started hiring new personnel. And there's a lot of opportunities that came our way. And I can tell you one. We wanted to be a full service agency. And then I had this miraculous idea. At the times, the Olympic Games were being organized in Beijing. And I decided, okay, how cool will it be to drive from A to B, from Athens, birthplace of the Olympic Games, to B, Beijing. Create a program, television program around it, an advertising campaign to hire new staff for the Holland Heineken House there. And just by a whim of an idea, I all wrote it down on paper. Floris, my companion, in the evening made a design, and I drove to the Dutch Olympic Sports Association. They thought it was a brilliant idea and gave me 100,000 euros straight away and connected me to all of their sponsors to create this expedition. Shit. Didn't thought it was going that fast. So I was in my car, and I'm like, oh my God, I got 3 websites to build. My pipeline is full. Maybe this was too big a step. And then we came up to this. Everybody needs a coach. We were basically introduced to a coach in the beginning. And even, as I want to depict here, is that even the best of the best in the world need a coach. And we needed a coach as well to give our guidelines. Creating a television program, and we were only like with 4 people, is a bit too much. So, I'm going to be honest here, the project didn't go off. I called them and says, okay, company goes first. This television project is off the charts. Sorry about that. And I've learned from that, my mistakes. So what I did is started focusing on one shoe, creating that full service agency. The coach didn't like that we wanted to be a full service agency, and he said, focus on web development. Yes, we can, but in a society where we have always connected consumers, being reachable by mobile phones, telephone, tablets, anywhere, we wanted to give this full service option to our clients. Everybody was against it. Everybody, and I mean everybody. It's like, okay, cool, second hurdle, third hurdle, whatever you call it, we're going to do this. We're going to show the world that it's possible to create a full-service agency. We had a challenge. And our coach gave us guidelines on how to interact with new customers, set up a pipeline management, and basically a great coach will definitely lead to success. And it did. Once we found the structure to run our agency, it was possible for us to grow even faster. We had a strong focus on what we wanted to deliver in which years. We knew that we would first focus on web development, Drupal web development, and besides that, work a bit on marketing and communication, because we knew the biggest market would be Drupal. At that time, there were 3 agencies in the Netherlands to work with Drupal, and I think every month we had 3 to 4 pitches, and they all said, like, okay, I always ask, like, okay, who are my competition? Do you know that? He says, yeah, there are 2 others, and I already knew, okay, who my competition was, because there are only like 2 other competitors in the Netherlands. Working all of those long hours gave me another hurdle to take. And although I won't present a picture of her here, I want to thank my wife. She gave me the opportunity to grow the agency. She was taking care of the kids at the time, and she allowed me to work from 9 till midnight for the first couple of years. It was basically ridiculous when I think back of it, but now I have my agency and it all works out fine. And now I have time for my kids and my wife a lot more. So behind every great leader, there's even a better partner. If you don't make good, if you don't work closely with your wife, you know, and discuss all the hurdles you have to take in growing a company, it will lead to disaster somewhere along the way. So if you have a partner, discuss what your vision is, discuss your dream, tell her that you'll take her to the Bahamas, but also tell her that it's necessary to work those 10,000 hours to create your company. And this is vital for success. So I want to thank my wife, Alice, for allowing me to grow my company and be there every time I needed her. Right from the beginning, we knew that we wanted to grow our agency. Not as big as we are now. We didn't expect that to happen that quick. But we knew we wanted to grow. And what we also knew is that we had to grow in terms of leadership. And that's a problem I see with many agencies. I organized a Drupal CXO event a while ago in Utrecht. And I spoke to this guy. I have no idea if he's in the room here. And he says, I've just hired my third staff, my third person. And it's been dreadful. It's taking a lot of energy. And I quickly realized that if you are a coder and you start your company, you know, it's fun, you know, coding. And then you attract another coder and you're coding together, and another one, and suddenly there's a room full of coders. But is there a leader? Is there a guy who knows management, project management? Is there a visionary person within the company who will lead the company past all those hurdles? In most of the times, that person is not there right from the start. And that will... that's one of the reasons why a lot of agencies are still down to about a maximum of 10 people, because it's easy to run a company of up to 10 people, you know, because it's small. You can do your agile projects, you do a bit of sales or a bit of promotion, and you get enough work coming in, and your cash flow is right in order. But if you want to grow past the 18, you know, the 18 mark is a really difficult one. Then you have to change as management as well, as a leader. So there's 4 levels of leadership. There's leading yourself. You know, you're a one-person company. That's easy. You know, it requires some self-discipline, of course, but it's easy to manage yourself. Then you get to a point where you have to manage a team of people. So that's only direct subordinates. You're a typical manager, and all the typical management works comes with it. then if you start to grow, you have to start leading a team of teams. For example, a team of project managers that will lead a team. That requires different skills and a different mindset because you're distancing yourself from the company. And that is, sorry, commas, guys. Didn't do that on purpose. So you have to distance yourself from your own staff. And the question is, are you willing to do so? You know, that doesn't mean that you have to work in this ivory tower, you know, somewhere, you know, at a long distance from your staff. No, not at all. You have to be on the floor regularly, but you don't work in a team closely together with them. That's a change, and it depends on you if you want to make that change. But it gives you time to go out there to basically hunt your vision and find new staff, find new clients, and just to go out there. And then the fourth one, you know, the next step is that you're a leader of a bigger organization. You set the long-term visionary goals, you know, basically tell that to your board of directors. They will address it down towards the managers and to your staff, etc. Those are basically the 4 steps of leadership that you will have to go through if you want to do so. So you have to grow as well. It requires discipline, time, knowledge, some grey hairs, and you have to read a lot of books as well, management books that will support you, and consult a coach every now and then to see if you're on the right track, because you will come across hurdles you won't believe. They say there's this saying, I wish you a lot of personnel, or I wish you a lot of staff. Yes, it's totally true. It gives you hurdles. I will leave it to that. All right. So we decided to focus on Drupal Enterprise. We've chosen what we call a specific market within the Drupal community. We didn't want it to work for the bakery around the corner. We love his bread, yes, but we don't want to work for him. Why? A bakery around the corner is basically working all day, busy with his bread. And he's not focusing on marketing or his website or anything like that, and he has no knowledge of that as well. But he has some vague idea on what he wants to do with his bakery. So the amount of time you have to work with this bakery guy, you know, to get his website, you know, off the charts, is taking you the same amount of time working for an enterprise a client who has a lot more cash to spend, who has a IT person or marketing person available who has knowledge of the projects, and it makes working a lot more easier, and they pay better. So we started to focus on the enterprise market of Drupal, and that was a good choice because gave us bigger clients, and we started to shout it off the rooftops again, like, hey, we found another large client. People started believing it, and what we did is we created an ecosystem where it would lead to success. And we call this the Wheel of Fortune. We came off this, we created this ourselves. So we started off with our proposition. What is it that we offer? Well, as I said before, strategy, UX design, development for web and mobile, and advertisement. That's our proposition. So we are a full-service agency that can help you with your seamlessly integrated communication tasks. And we started to promote or tell this to clients. And we also did marketing. Marketing is an essential part in growing your agency. Never forget that. So we communicated our proposition to our clients and via all the marketing channels we can find. This would lead to business, but also new employees. And we told our proposition also to our employees, who started basically communicating our proposition as well. and that will basically lead to growth. What comes with that is that you have to set up an operation that serves your proposition in the right way. So you have to create workflows, you've got your processes, all aligned towards your proposition and your clients, specifically your clients. All your processes and workflows should be addressed to your clients, working with your proposition. And when you have your operation in order, you have to stay in touch with your knowledge as well. The world is changing rapidly. We all know that. Drupal 8 beta is coming out pretty soon. So yes, you have to get that knowledge up and running within your agency. Don't forget that you have to stay up to speed. If you don't innovate, if you don't learn, it will basically stuck your engine somewhere along the line. With that new knowledge, in an ever-changing market, you have to check in with your proposition every 2 to 3 years. Like, okay, market is changing, there's a lot of new knowledge, is my proposition still working? And then you got a wheel, and it just starts turning, And Dries Buiteraert showed us a rocket. We could rocketeer your company, and we were just driving around this road all the way to the south of France, eventually leading us to the Bahamas. So this Wheel of Fortune, take it into your mind and make sure that every part of it is done correctly, that you have all those items written down so you have an agency that works. With leadership comes also a lot of responsibility. I told you that my agency has grown now up to 40 people, and we're expanding rapidly now. That comes with a lot of responsibilities. And you have to learn, I was a creative founder once, and I have to learn how to act responsible as well. 3 of them I will mention here. So you got your organizational goals. I discussed earlier the dot on the horizon. As a manager or as a leader, you are the captain of the ship. Keep in mind what the dot on the horizon is and that you sail towards it. But also be aware that a ship never sails in a straight line. It also goes like from left to right to reach that horizon, and tell that to your staff as well. Productivity and results of colleagues and your organization. This is an operational role, and you have to grow into that as well. Normally you're a coder, you sit behind, you're coding, having a lot of fun, and then suddenly you're looking at charts on how the productivity of your staff is. That's a difference, that's a change, and that's a role you have to take as well. Definitely in the beginning, later on in the process, you can address that to somebody else. In the future, when you grow, your team leads can start reporting to you, but that's one of the levels of growth you can reach when you're growing bigger. And there's a social responsibility as well. You have staff, you have a role in society. Don't take this too lightly. This is a task you have to address as well. So work with your staff, make them feel at home. If there's trouble at home, work with them to resolve those problems at home, and take a role in society as well, especially in an open source society, is that you have to give back, as Dries noted already. And another thing I just want to tell you, just be so cool, they can't ignore you. Be a cool company, or being a cool company is another reason for growth. Why? Just people want to work at a cool company. That's really basically it. So what we did, we were now in quite a large office, so we created a bar. We have our own, it's a bar/discotheque for Friday parties. I give the keys to my staff and just, guys, I'm off to my wife and kids early. Here you go, guys, have fun. We create barbecues, and we go out regularly. We have a game room all that kind of stuff that every developer dreams of, we have it. And that's really important to grow, because if you can't find the right stuff because you're not cool to work for, then it's difficult to grow, because it all comes down to finding the right stuff. So if you grow from being a creative leader, and a creative founder, I must say, into a leader, this is what it also comes down to. This is really a hurdle, because you get distracted every day by operational things that will basically draw you away from the task and goals that you want to reach. So first of all, make use of your time wisely. Absolutely. Focus on clear results and definitely also long-term success. Not only on the day-to-day stuff. If you focus on that, I'll come to that later, then you won't grow. Avoid perfectionism. Developers by nature are perfectionists, zeros and ones. If something is at 85%, you can make the decision. You don't have to know if it's 100% correct to make this decision. If you're at 85%, you have the gut feeling to think, hey, this is cool, we're going to do this, we're going to build this application. There's always a developer coming up to you and say, like, no, we've got to do some more research, we can go client research, etc., etc. If it feels right at about 85%, just do it. Don't be a perfectionist in making choices. Be a perfectionist in code. Yes, if you want to produce code, you have to be a perfectionist. But in making choices as a manager, you don't have to be a perfectionist at 85%. Just give it a go, because it feels right. Update the way you work. There's different work habits once you're a director, once you're a leader, and set limitations. And most of all, do important things first. Another thing I want to share with you is that innovation leads to growth, and I'll tell you why in a second. There's a lot of people questioning me is why I spend so much time on innovation. We've just hooked up the Google Glass to Drupal and iBeacon technology. iBeacon technology didn't work that well for Google Glass because it's overheating. I'm going to tell you that straight away. But will it lead to a lot of business straight away? No, not at all. You can't make money out of innovation itself at all. But then again, why should you do it? Well, it leads to press and PR. Because if you do stuff that nobody has done before, it will lead, and you send out a press release, people will pick it up and then say, hey, this company is doing cool stuff with Google Glass and Drupal and iBeacon technology. Like, wow, they're doing some great stuff. So we decided to spend an X amount of our budget just purely on innovation. Great thing is that the Dutch government gives you subsidies for that as well, so you can basically deduct it from your wages. And yes, it's fun. It's fun as well, because your staff can work on the latest technologies, and so they have fun, your staff has fun. Your press and PR agent has a lot of fun because, hey, they can send out press releases that are being absolutely printed. And then suddenly your name is being picked up as an innovative company. And some innovation would lead to products. We've done that. We've built products based on Drupal and QR codes in the past. And even the largest publishers in the Netherlands now even work with our products. So yes, sometimes it would lead to a product, but in 90% it doesn't. But it leads to growth of your company, because you get attention for being innovative. So take that in mind. If you want your staff to work on cool projects, just give them the time, but make sure there's a PR plan behind it as well, so you can publicize it and spread the word. When we look at short-term thinking, that's the enemy of long-term success. So you grow your agency. We've passed the hurdle of 18. We started growing. I needed to get my processes in order. I needed to get my operations in order. And I was working on my daily business. I needed to change offices. We've been moving already for 4 times now. So every 2 years we moved our office. And that takes about 4 to 5 months, organizing it and buying new cables and tables and all that kind of stuff, I love IKEA. So if you're just purely focusing on your day-to-day business, you forget to work on your long-term success. You don't work on finding new clients or new markets, So that's a problem. So you're working on your day-to-day business, but no new business is coming in, and other agencies are taking, specific markets. So if you don't work on your long-term success, then suddenly your short-term process has a problem. But if you only focus on your long-term, you're always busy with finding new clients and new markets, then your day-to-day business starts lacking, and your day-to-day business gives you your income. So there's a challenge, It's like, okay, should I focus on my long-term success? Should I focus on my short-term success? No, you should do both. You should find a balance between them. Yes, work on new clients, work on new markets, new products, new services, but then again, work on your daily operations as well. So if you lose sight of your operations, you will lose money. If you lose sight of your new markets and new customers, you won't get new money in. It's a lose-lose situation, or if you do it correctly, a win-win situation. So Google this one, the disciplines of market leaders. It's an interesting one. And I've made a mistake here. We grew rapidly because of Drupal. Thank you, Dries. And when we started, we had what we call customer intimacy focus. It's basically called that our clients were our main focus, and everything we did, every process we created was focused on our clients. Then after a few years, when we've passed the 18 hurdle, your processes will get, difficult. You have to change your management style, you have to change your processes, everything. And then the idea came up, okay, maybe we should, and this was done by an operations manager, should we focus on being a product leader in terms of Drupal? And what he did was he set up an organization on creating Drupal products as fast as possible, losing sight of the customer intimacy focus we had. So he was focusing on the daily operations, to create them as smoothly as possible and as fast as possible to get more efficiency. But in the meantime, he lost sight of our clients. And that was a big mistake, because it's not about how fast we can produce a Drupal site as quickly as possible. No, it's about delivering success to our clients, and even better, the clients of our clients. So we made a mistake there and lost sight of our customers at the time. Fortunately, we found out, within the year, turned it all back, and created a new operations style. And now we are 100% focused on customer intimacy. If you focus on your clients are happy, your clients become your ambassadors, and they will tell and talk about you as, I told before, independent marketeers. If you can create a client into an independent marketeer of your agency, that's the best marketing you can get. And then word of mouth started spreading again, and the agency started growing. I believe that, we're now with 40 people. I've heard that the next hurdle, the big hurdle, will be at around 50 to 60. No idea what that one is, but I can tell you maybe next year. Focusing on customer intimacy is something really important, because you don't, unless you are, of course, a product-oriented company that sells hosting, or which is a product, then you can make things as smooth as possible. Then you should have product leadership in that one. But if you build Drupal websites, Drupal platforms, or other services like that, please focus on your customer. So when I meet people, successful people, I always ask 100 questions. Okay, how do you do it? How did you grow? And the reasons to what they attribute their success to is actually the same: persistence, hard work, and best of all, hiring good people. Don't be afraid to hire someone who is better than you. Make sure you find people who are better than you. You're the leader. You can't think of everything yourself. You don't want to. You don't have the time to. So surround yourself with a team that's better than you, and work closely together. If you have a dream, a vision, a dot on the horizon, which is a bit vague, doesn't matter. Hire good staff, ask them in your room, sit down, legs on the table, drink a beer. Guys, I have this vague idea on where to go to. Let's plot the route together. And if you surround yourself with people who are better than you, your company will strive, definitely. So hiring good people is a task of a successful manager. And I've read in the books somewhere that 60% of your time you should be focusing on hiring good people. 60% of your time. May I see some hands? Who's working 60% of their time on finding new, better staff? Yeah, someone there. He's doubting. Yeah, that's what and I find it hard to believe as well. Is that 60% of my time I should work on finding better staff? It is true. Why? Because all those daily problems you have can be solved by people who are better than you instead of you. But it's difficult. And I can absolutely understand why nobody raised their hand here, except for you there. All right. Another thing, make mistakes. Make a lot of mistakes. I've learned from my mistakes. I've made many of them. And now I can laugh about them, and I've learned from them. So I've decided to make some more mistakes. Seriously, yeah, I'm going to make a lot more mistakes, because I learned from them. People who make mistakes, they dare to do things differently. They try to find new ways of growing a company. They make mistakes along the way and then immediately decide, okay, I'm going to take another route to success, because this is a one-way street, doesn't work. And keep laughing about them. Sometimes you make mistakes. You go to a home, you're in your car, and you think, oh my goodness, what have I done? Don't be sorry for yourself. Just laugh about it. It's all part of business. We make mistakes. We're humans. We're not computers who are being programmed. No. Laugh and move along. It's one of those hurdles. You come along. All right. What's also really necessary, this is not actual data, this is for your information, is get your reports in order once you grow. A lot of organizations tend to grow, and then they forget that one of the key issues of management is to look into reports on is your business doing well? Is your cash position in order? Is your pipeline in order? If you have 40 people working for you and you have a pipeline which says 10,000 euros within the next 3 months is going to be closed, you have a problem. And you know that beforehand if you have your reporting in order. So you need your cash flow position, you need your sales pipeline management, you have your marketing reports, and also your product, your staff efficiency reports, really important. And get your reporting in order as soon as possible. I already started reporting when Floris and I were with the two of us. You know, he was programming, and I made sure that he got the information about, okay, what's my pipeline, this is what's coming in, and so we can make management decisions based on numbers. Makes it a lot easier. If you do everything on gut feeling, you'll get a discussion along the way. If you base your decisions based on numbers, it makes it a lot easier. So take your time to set up your reporting.
Lucas?
Yeah.
You said in the beginning that you didn't want any investors, so I assume that you don't have any investors.
No.
But did you ever finance any parts of your growth? For example, when you need a person who is highly skilled, did you ever go through a phase where you either thought about getting a credit from the bank?
No.
Or no?
I have a bookkeeper. Your question is, did I ever finance my growth? No, I didn't. I don't care about money at all, and my companion doesn't either. We love to build great stuff and get rewarded for that in a way that, you know, we get on the podium and things like that. You know, we love that, but we don't care about money, so we don't spend. Our bookkeeper says, guys, this is getting ridiculous. Start spending some money, but we don't. And we haven't done that for the last 8.5 years, so our cash position is nice, I can say. And the funny thing is that we've created this ridiculous cash position. Now we can finance our growth into Germany or set up a shop in Amsterdam. No problem. Hire new staff? No problem. But for the last 8.5 years, you know, we didn't spend at all. Maybe you're going to laugh, but if you're going to buy a printer, you know, just a printer, you know, everybody needs a printer at their office. You know, we're debating on which one, you know, because that one is 25 euros cheaper, you know, but is it effective and how much are the cartridges cost, etc. We have small discussions about that one. Why? It saves money in the end, you know. So think big, act small. That's what we do. Don't spend at all, so you can finance your growth yourself. And I always say that there's two types of agencies or companies. You have companies and you got independent companies. I'm an independent entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur. So, and that makes it a lot different. There's nobody, you know, I have to address to and say, okay, you know, my company is doing well, and he says to me, no, you should do it differently. No. If I want to have fun tomorrow and Google, an Oculus Rift is coming in within 2 weeks' time, we're going to have a lot of fun with that because we're going to program lots of cool stuff, you know, on the Oculus Rift. I don't have to tell an investor whether I can do that or not, or spend ridiculous money on an Oculus Rift, things like that. So it gives us freedom, so we're 100% free, and we have enough money to grow ourselves now. But yeah, it's getting dark here. All right. So you don't, yes, I can tell you that there was a competitor, one of the 3 agencies that started right outside along us in 2006. They brought in an investor, and they grew rapidly. And I already told them, you're growing too rapidly. This is not healthy anymore. The investor will basically guide your company in a direction you don't want to. That company is now bankrupt. It's finished. It's gone. And at the time, I was afraid. It's like, oh, my God, everybody's growing more rapidly than I do. You know, it's like, should I get an investor? Of course, those questions came along. We decided not to, you know, and we're now, you know, one of the bigger agencies, and we're having still a lot of fun, and we're still 100% independent. So, all right. So I'm going to tell you, and I see the slide is not correctly, made a mistake here. I want to tell you about the blue and red ocean theory. Who knows about the blue and red ocean theory? All right, good. It's a theory based on an ocean, and there's a lot of fish swimming in that ocean, and then the sharks come in, and he's hungry, and he has a lot of fish. He's laughing. That's basically what happened when we started off with Drupal. There was a lot of demand, and there were only, we started as the first agency in the Netherlands, and later there came three agencies. There was so much market, there were only 3 sharks within that ocean. So we had plenty of fish to eat, and everybody was laughing. And, with that success, that drew a lot of attention of some more sharks. Some more sharks coming in, and suddenly what's happening is that those sharks start competing for that one little fish. And that can get nasty, really nasty. It can get bloody. So a blue ocean can turn into a red ocean, and that will happen. If an ocean is full of fish and there's only 1 shark in there, believe me, new sharks will come in. As I said, 3 agencies in the beginning. There's now, I think, over 102 agencies in the Netherlands, doing Drupal, promoting Drupal, working with Drupal. Fortunately, the pie has become bigger, Sometimes there's a bit of blood, but, it's still okay, but it will become bloody. So what can you do against it? You can choose a new blue ocean. Let's say you're going to do iBeacon technology development or Google Glass development, something completely different. Or you can position yourself as an agency in a corner. We do Drupal commerce. We do purely community websites. So you're there in a corner. And if that's really successful, of course, some shark will follow, but most of them will stay in the middle of the ocean, competing each other. So you can diversify yourself, you can offer new services, or you can specialize yourself. So that's the part of the blue and red ocean theory. Keep in mind, keep focus on your market. When it gets bloody, make sure you adopt your agency. That's information you're getting. And with that information, you can change your proposition and your strategy. So take that into account. And sorry for the wrong slide. When you grow your company and you don't want to get investors, you'll find bottlenecks. That's why I got the right slide here. You'll find bottlenecks. What's happening, so first you have your strategy session, then you have your UX session, and then you got your front-end development, your back-end development, and suddenly more work is pouring in, and you have a large development team and only 1 UX developer. And every project has to go through this guy. The guy comes up to you and says, "Oh my God, I've got too much work." And then first you have to identify and exploit the bottleneck. See if he's truly full. If he's truly full, then hire someone else, and make sure that you have your hiring team up to speed so they can quickly find somebody else. If you grow this way by identifying bottlenecks and basically get rid of bottlenecks as soon as it's really necessary, then it's possible to grow without funding, without external funding, as we did. And this is the correct slide, of course. Celebrate success. It's really important to enjoy the ride. There's a lot of hurdles in terms of staffing. That's the biggest, hurdle you'll come across. You have your finance issues that will come along. But don't forget, it's fun. It's part of the job. It comes with it. That's part of you being an entrepreneur. And that makes you different from all the people who work at companies, large companies. That makes you an entrepreneur because you can tackle those issues. And if you tackle an issue, celebrate it. But celebrate also your success. If you've launched a new platform, take your guys, your staff out to drink, and have fun. A lot of fun. So celebrate success. Don't forget that. And that's where I want to basically end my presentation. If you have any question, please now, and otherwise you can find me at the booth. First question.
So one challenge I think I always have is that, and this is probably similar to a lot of other businesses in the room,
Sorry, there's a microphone here, I've heard. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so one challenge we have is that work kind of finds us in a very reactive way. So we make ourselves identifiable as a Drupal agency, and then we get leads in, we win those leads, we get business. The challenge I get with that is how I actually kind of plan my pipeline, because I can tell you what I'm doing for the next 6 or 7 months, but I couldn't tell you what I'm doing in 18 months because I don't know what the pipeline looks like. So how did you resolve those challenges?
Well, what we do is, yes, we have a pipeline, and we give every new lead a score. We know at which date what the expected close date is, what kind of percentage we give them. It's like, okay, this is a 10%, we don't focus on that one, but this is an 80%, we got to focus on that one because there's 80% chance we can close them off within the next, 3 or 4 weeks. So if you have that trajectory based on your planning, you can look ahead how much staff you need for your projects, and then you have somebody to hire new staff. You can work that out, and we haven't done that with flexible staff, like freelancers working for you. They can come in, do the job, but you get less profit on working with a freelancer than working with your own staff. So if you're confident enough in attracting leads, you have your sales team up and running, up to speed, you got your forecasting in order, you can also forecasting the work ahead. 6 months' time, within 6 months' time, it's easily to find new staff. The only problem is do you have the capabilities to train your staff as well? Because they have to adopt your ways of working. Do you work with SVN or Git? All this kind of stuff. So training is part of the process as well. And yeah, you have to take into account that if a new developer comes in, if it's just a PHP developer, you can get him up to speed within a month or two, but he won't be a rockstar Drupal programmer yet. Because he has to learn his modules. But if he's a rockstar programmer already, yeah, if you can hire a web chick, you can start her, quite quickly. So find a balance in that one, right? There's a question there.
I'm wondering, you mentioned that you made the decision not to do full service at a certain point and focus on web development.
Yeah, well, at that time.
At that time.
Yeah, because we had a limited amount of time.
And how did you fill the gap for the services that weren't part of?
Well, that was really in the early stages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was really in the early stages.
Okay.
Pretty soon after that, we started to promote our other services like strategic advice, Drupal consultancy, advertisement, all that kind of stuff, and we hired the right staff when demand.
Okay.
When we
did you partner at all in the early days? Like with affiliates?
Well, on some parts, we got a job. That was really funny, actually. I met this client, and I knew they wanted an advertising campaign. So I thought of, okay, we have to create a few banners, a billboard, and then this girl sits down with me and she says, okay, you got to think big. And this is external consultant sitting there as well, and I'm asking the question, how big? And then they showed me the Apple TV commercial, the first one. And I'm looking at it, this big? Yeah, this big. So I'm like, okay. So I sat down with the team, and we created this campaign with 3D characters. Absolutely, it was commercials with 3D characters flying through the air, and it was a woman based on the on how to say it, a computer game model. And it was just awesome. It was radical at the time, and we worked long hours again to do that one. But we didn't have the developers in house to do all the animations, and we worked together with guys who also worked together on Shrek, and so it was massive. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
nice.
All right.
Now, what kind of software do you use for planning long term, so your pipelines make rather than on a per project basis?
We have a CRM system. We use Sugar for that one, and basically every leads we turn into Sugar, and we create a report every week. So we go through all the leads, and basically come through, so like, okay, how much time are we going to put on how much effort are going to be put on this one and that one. So we come through them every week, and then we say, okay, this is a lead, but it's not interesting for us, or there's too much effort going into it. We can't get any margin on that one. So we scrape that off the list. Always the bottom of the list, you've got to scrape away. Yeah. All right.
What do you see as a healthy...
If you use the microphone, then it's recorded. Yeah, thank you.
What do you see as a healthy ratio between innovation and paid work?
Well, that's a difficult one. It's always a challenge. Sometimes, there's a lot of work coming in, and then you have little time for innovation. Not more than 5% of your work should be done on innovation, because it totally depends. If you're a product company and you want to outstand your competition, and you're, as I said, a product company, yes, you should invest a lot more in innovation, because if you stand still as a product company, you die. If you are a Drupal web agency and you build Drupal web platforms, yes, innovate in front-end and back-end development, or create new modules, things like that, and share them with the community, so get your credits there. So I think innovation, about 5% max, that would be healthy.
You mentioned at some point you needed a coach.
Yeah.
Why, and what were you looking for?
Well, at the time, I was taking too much hay. I don't know how you say this in English. Too much hay on my fork, As I said, I was selling a television program, which was a great idea still, but they believed in it. But it was ridiculous for a two-man company to create a TV program that would normally be done by the BBC. So we were thinking too big at the time. And what he did, he sat down with us, and he said, okay, how much time do you spend on sales? How much time do you spend on hiring new people? How much time do you spend on... So he made a full list with percentages behind it. Not hours, percentages. So we said that we combed through the list, and I gave him percentages of how much time I thought I was working on projects. And he came up to the realization that I was working 200% of my time, which was not feasible, so I should have worked like more than the ridiculous hours I already made. And I was not working effectively at the time. I was basically working on projects that would not gain traction, like the television program. So we started focusing on actual growth, on the actual needs of the company, and getting things done, as I said earlier in my slide. Some more questions? All right. Thank you very much for coming. So if you have any questions, we have a booth downstairs. And if you want to experience Google Glass, just let me know. There's one at the stand as well. Thank you very much.